So I made a video a long time ago, well, like 4 months ago, and it got deleted. I made several. But I've been on a journey searching for my father for most of my adult life. When I was a little girl, before I was born, I mean. My mother and my father were dating. She got pregnant. He was stationed in Alaska. He went back. They kept writing each other. She told him she was pregnant. He asked her to marry him. And said he would send a ticket. He came back that year I was born, went to my grandma's house, and my grandma said that she married somebody else, had a baby, and moved out of state. So he said he closed the door that day. And so I don't, you know, it is what it is. He did his best. And I'm grateful that he was very honorable to do that. And, but I kept having this need, this desire. I had to find my dad. And last year my son did the Ancestry DNA test. Long story short, he did, the test came back. I didn't really understand everything. 6 months later, I asked my brother, who I thought was my half-brother, because I thought I found my father 20 years ago. Because my mother said that it was this guy. So he accepted me. 20 years went on. So my brother, my half-brother, does this DNA test, and we're not a match. Just come to find out, the guy's not my father. All this 20 years I thought he was my father. So went on a search again, and I went on a Facebook group, and they help you, like people that know about DNA and stuff like that, and Ancestry. Anyway, long story short, they connected my DNA to just say my grandfather. And you have to work, you have to like guess and get, it's a guessing game. So I worked my way from there to who I thought was my father. It had to be him. He was the only one on the census. It was my Aunt Eva and David. Thought David was my dad. So that's another story. I cried 5 weeks. He died at 18, and I cried for weeks and weeks. I felt so bad for him. So something told me to call this graveyard where David and Eva was at. I called, and I was asking, and they said there's no Eva here. There's gonna when this lady dies, she's gonna be buried here. He told me her name. I went to Google real fast. I found her. I talked to her. She's my aunt. I'm like, wow, I got 3 cousins. I got an aunt. I got an uncle. Because he wasn't on the census. He wasn't on the census. So anyway, the people searching for me only seen Eva and David. So they said, unless there's another man out there, David's your dad. So I asked my aunt if I can call my uncle. You know, he'll be happy to know he's got a niece from his brother that died so early. I call him up, and we're talking. As we're talking, I say, I still don't understand how David got from all the way up there to Maryland to see my mother. He said, oh no, David wasn't out of the state. And I said, what? I said, wait a minute, you were in Maryland? He said, yes. I said, were you dating anybody there? He said, yes. I said, what was her name? Helen. What? Helen's my mother. You're my father. Oh my God. It was just the weirdest, unreal thing. I thought he was my uncle. He's my father. Because the Ancestry documents, the census report did not have my father, did not have him living with his mother. He only had my uncle David and my aunt living with my mother, living with their mother. My father was living with his aunt and uncle. And so I found my father. 62 years. It was just the most painful thing I ever been through, and I finally found my father. So a couple months went by, and I asked him if he would do the Ancestry DNA test. Long story short, he did the Ancestry DNA test. It came back yesterday, and he's the daddy. I found my daddy after all these years. I just can't believe it. I cried so much for decades before I found the first guy that I thought was my dad. And I cried for decades. And so I have 7 adult kids, and my dream was to be able to find my father. This way my kids would have a grandfather. And my son just told me he talked to his grandfather 2 times yesterday, and that's priceless. So you got to remember, when you go to do these DNA tests, you got to remember, they might not want you, they might want you, you might not find them. You might find that they died. It's the most traumatic. I will tell you, I think I physically had multiple nervous breakdowns because I couldn't handle the pressure. So there you go. I wanted to tell my story. I've been making videos with it, and somehow I deleted them. And I just wanted to get in here and shout out and tell my amazing story. And that's part of what I want to talk about. So talk to you later. Bye.